Well, if you feel like your focus isn't what it used to be, like you can't concentrate the way you used to, this might explain why. You sit down to do something, and within minutes, your attention drifts. You check your phone. You think about something else. You switch tasks. And before you realize it, you've lost focus completely. So you assume the problem is discipline, that you just need to try harder, be more strict, be more productive. But what if that's not the real issue? Because focus isn't just about effort. It's about how your brain is being used. And right now, your attention is under constant pressure. From the moment you wake up, your brain is being pulled in different directions. Notifications, messages, social media, news, endless content. And every time you engage with it, your brain gets a small hit of stimulation, something new, something quick, something easy, and your brain starts to get used to that. Fast input, constant change, instant rewards. So when you try to focus on something slower, something that takes effort, something that doesn't give immediate feedback, your brain resists. Not because you're lazy, but because it's been trained to expect something else, something easier, something more stimulating. And that's why focus feels harder than it used to. Because the things that require focus don't compete with the things that distract you. They're slower, quieter, less immediately rewarding, and your brain has adapted to the opposite. Another thing that's affecting your focus is how often your attention gets interrupted. Even small interruptions, a notification, a quick check, a thought about something else. Each one seems minor, but every interruption breaks your concentration. And when your concentration breaks, your brain has to restart. It has to refocus, rebuild context, re-engage with the task. And that takes effort, more than most people realize. So if you're getting interrupted constantly, you're never really focusing. You're just restarting over and over again. And that's exhausting. That's why you can spend hours working, but feel like you've achieved very little because your attention has been fragmented, split into small pieces instead of being directed at one thing. Another reason focus feels harder now is because you're rarely bored anymore. And that might sound like a good thing, but it's actually a problem because boredom used to train your brain to focus. When there was nothing to do, your mind would settle. It would slow down. It would engage with whatever was in front of it. But now, when the moment you feel even slightly bored, you reach for your phone. You fill that space instantly. So your brain never learns to sit still. It never learns to stay with one thing. And without that ability, focus becomes difficult because focus requires stillness. It requires you to stay with something, even when it's not instantly stimulating. And if your brain isn't used to that, it will resist. Another thing that weakens your focus is trying to do too much at once. When you have too many things in your head, too many tasks, too many priorities, your attention gets scattered. You don't know where to start, so you bounce between things. Trying to do everything, but not really focusing on anything. And that creates a constant feeling of distraction, not because you can't focus, but because nothing has your full attention. So what's the solution? It's not forcing yourself to focus harder. That doesn't work long term because you're fighting against how your brain has been trained. Instead, you need to change the environment your attention is in. Reduce the constant input, not completely, but enough to give your brain a break. Put your phone away for short periods. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Create moments where nothing is competing for your attention. Because focus doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from the absence of distraction. Another powerful shift is to make starting easier. Because the harder something feels, the more your brain avoids it. And avoidance leads to distraction. So instead of trying to do everything, make the first step simple, clear, obvious, something you can start without thinking. Because once you begin, your brain starts to settle. It stops searching for something else and starts engaging with what's in front of you. That's when focus begins to return. Not instantly, but gradually, as your brain adjusts, as it gets used to less stimulation and more depth. And the more you practice that, the stronger your focus becomes. Because focus is a skill. And like any skill, it improves with use. So if you've been struggling to focus lately, it's probably not because you've lost discipline. It's because your attention has been overloaded and trained to expect constant distraction. Fix that, and your focus comes back.